This stuff lights your fireman, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
All right, with Week 5 officially in the books and all the NFL teams having played at least one quarter of their games, it's time to give out my interim fantasy awards to both those NFL players who have been awesome for fantasy owners and those who've stunk up the joint. Now, the awards aren't necessarily given to the best and worst players at the positions, but the players who have either exceeded or underperformed in fantasy with regard to their expectations. So first up, let's take a look at the quarterbacks. Now, I really can't give the award to Peyton Manning here because we all thought he would be good. All right, perhaps not this good, but nevertheless, the fact that he's the number one quarterback at this point isn't really a huge surprise to anyone. So that being the case, the award's going to go to Phillip Rivers.
You're freaking awesome.
Rivers is currently the 4th ranked quarterback with 106 points. Now, I had him with a preseason ranking of around 20, and there just isn't anyone else who's had that kind of jump, and it's becoming a hell of a bounce back story, really. And in the loser category, I was going to go with Tom Brady, but I'm going to have to give him somewhat of a pass here because his receiving core has been so depleted, and you probably should have been able to gain that one. So the award is going to default to Cam Newton.
You suck!
Now, I had Newton coming in at number 5 coming into this season, and with just 62 points, he's sitting at number 22 in terms of production. All right, on to the running backs. To me, this one was simple. It's the guy from my hometown of Middletown, New Jersey, Sean Marino.
You're freaking awesome.
I had Marino ranked somewhere in the 40s coming out of camp, and no one even knew how much playing time he would get. But right now, he sits at number 7 with 64 points, contributing both in the air and on the ground. And my loser here is David Wilson.
You know what? You suck!
I had Wilson at number 15 coming in on draft day, which is likely higher than some, but not by much. I had him there mostly because of the skill set he brings to the table, the lack of competition for carries, and how I thought the Giants were going to use him. Now, he's clearly been a bust to date. David, you don't get anything for the backflip. With apologies to you and your family, I'm really not telling you anything you don't know here. At the moment, you suck. Now, at wide receiver, I kind of had a tie between Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey. I had Smith at 26 and Jeffrey at 40 on draft day, and both currently are tied for number 7 in terms of production with 60 points. But I'm going to have to give the award to Smith.
You're freaking awesome.
Now, Jeffrey's scoring has relied so heavily upon one unbelievable Week 5 that it likely hasn't helped his owners as much as Torrey Smith's owners. Now, tell the truth about Smith. You thought he couldn't do anything besides run a fly pattern, didn't you? And the wide receiver that's most disappointing to me has clearly been Roddy White.
You suck! You just suck! Plain out and simply, you suck!
You know, when I think about it, had he just sat out and rested his ankle and hamstring, I probably would have given him a pass. Because frankly, the Falcons probably wouldn't be in such dire straits right now, because he's really been nothing more than a decoy in a wasted roster spot. But as it is, he suited up and got out between the white lines each week, and he's currently the 97th ranked wide receiver, and I had him at number 7 coming in on draft day. So Roddy, I know you're hurt and all, and you tried to play through it, and I don't mean to add insult to injury, but as far as anyone who's had you in fantasy is concerned, you suck. At tight end, no disrespect to Jimmy Graham, but we already know he was good, and the winner hands down here is Julius Thomas.
You're freaking awesome.
An honorable mention goes to Jordan Cameron, but I already had him on my fantasy landscape. Coming in on draft day, I had him at number 12, and I had Thomas all the way down at number 20. And he currently sits at number 2 with 70 points. He's become a star virtually overnight. And it wasn't really easy to pick a loser here because really, if you don't have one of the top few tight ends, it kind of doesn't matter who you have at the position because everybody else is pretty much the same. Now, I know I got to pick somebody, so I'm going to have to go with Brandon Pettigrew.
You know what? You suck!
Now, Brandon, chill. The truth is that I really don't know that you suck more than some of the others, but I just kind of thought that you'd have more than 11 fantasy points after 5 weeks of play. Now, defense is less of an exact science when choosing the fantasy position because sometimes defenses that are hardest to move the ball on may not get turnovers just as a matter of circumstance. Scoring chances either, for that matter. So the best defenses in the league aren't necessarily the best fantasy scoring defenses. But I don't know anyone who thought Kansas City or Cleveland would have good defenses coming into the season, and they both deserve kudos for that. But it's the Chiefs who have been so opportunistic that have to get the award.
You're freaking awesome.
With 87 points, the Chiefs are so far ahead of everyone else that it would be criminal if they didn't get it. And in the You Suck category, It's cut and dry. It's the Giants defense.
You guys suck.
Now, I didn't even bother to go back to see where I ranked the Giants defense coming into the season, because the fact that the Big Blue D actually has -4 points on the season gets him the award. You know, it's one thing for a fantasy position to not meaningfully contribute or offer no contribution at all, but once you start actually taking away points, you suck. And since I'm feeling that Eli Manning and the offensive line has something to do with putting the Giants defense in tough spots half the time, they both get an obligatory shout out for this as well.
You suck. You just suck. Plain out and simply, you suck.
Now, I know kicking counts and it can mean a win or loss to your week, but it's really hard for me to give the award to someone like Matt Prater, who has the most points simply because he kicks a bazillion extra points each week. And it's not that I need to take the foot out of football. I think special teams are a huge part of the game. But for purposes of this award segment, since I can't really rationalize giving it to any one place kicker over another, I'm just going to say that all the kickers suck. I'm not going to give out a flex award because they're too generic, but I am going to give out 2 honorary awards, and since both the NFL and fantasy have become so dependent on the passing game, both awards are going to be quarterbacks. No one gives Alex Smith any credit. As I said last week, he's the Rodney Dangerfield of the NFL. He's 25-5-1 the past 3 seasons as a starter, which is in Peyton Manning territory. And I didn't see any preseason predictions that had him any higher than 24th. He's currently the 12th ranked quarterback with 80 points. So congratulations, Alex.
You're freaking awesome.
And on the flip side, where you may think that either Matt Schaub, who should really be investigated for being on the take, or Eli Manning should win the award for futility or pity, or whatever you want to call it, both RG3 and Colin Kaepernick teased the crap out of us last year, running and throwing the ball all over the field, leading us to believe that when healthy, they would rack up a bazillion fantasy points this season. Not the case, at least not yet. So for now, and until they do, as far as I'm concerned, neither of those 2 guys get a pass.
You guys suck.
Alright, it's time for today's Twitter question that comes from @JoeyD, who, as near as I can tell, from the nature of his tweets, is allowed to access his Twitter account from his cell in some penitentiary in Missouri. So Joey writes, after seeing last night's game, would you start Geno Smith? Hey look, there's certainly progress, right? But depends on the matchup. I think you could do worse, but it's not like he's all of a sudden a top option week in and week out. I'm guessing you have a lot of time in jail? Study up on the Jets' opponents and pick your spots. And if you have a question you want answered here on the show, whether you're in jail or not, hit me up with a tweet, and if I don't use your question, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune in to the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment here every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition, and on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football, as I team up with the king, Scott Engel, covering the week that was, the week that will be, and answering your viewer questions. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano. See you tomorrow.